breaking from Bill Malugin. 3 Virginia Department of Corrections officers were stabbed in a state prison today in what the state says was a premeditated attack involving 5 MS-13 gang members, all of whom are Salvadoran illegal aliens who've been convicted of violent crimes such as murder and rape. So the statement says, Richmond, the Virginia Department of Corrections is currently investigating the apparently premeditated stabbing of 3 corrections officers at the Wallens Ridge State Prison. The attack occurred at approximately 9:45 a.m. on Friday, May 2nd. 5 of the 6 inmates involved in the attack are confirmed MS-13 gang members from El Salvador who were in this country illegally. Each have been convicted of violent crimes, including aggravated murder, first and second-degree murder, and rape. The other inmate involved in the attack is a confirmed member of the Serrano 13 gang and from the United States, serving a sentence for second-degree murder. Send them all to Gitmo.
Yes, well, or Seacoat in El Salvador. Like, why not?
Yeah, I mean, they're illegal aliens, so you can send them to Seacoat too. Again, it's bad that there are all these criminals that we have that are illegal immigrants. Just send them out.
Oh, hold on.
They should all get sent right out.
What about? I'm not advocating for capital punishment, but if they were attacked and killed, did they kill guards? Because I don't think if they did a horrible enough thing, you don't send them anywhere.
They said they committed the attack. They stabbed him. So I don't know that they.
Yeah, but they're convicted of murder, second-degree murder, and rape.
Yeah.
I mean, so before this incident,
they were already bad guys.
My first thought is, what the hell are violent illegal immigrants doing in American prisons still?
Well, if they've committed a crime in the U.S., the U.S. will imprison them.
And hold them instead of send them overseas. You keep them.
Well, we only just got that deal with El Salvador, and we're paying them, I think, $6 million a year to take people from our prisons.
And a counter argument for years, I mean, honestly, from the right and the left, was if somebody does something horrible here, let's imprison them here once they're convicted, because if we send them back, how confident are we they're going to imprison them there?
Mm-hmm.
And then they come back.
And historically, that has been the case. They'll just get to whatever country they were from, and that country will be like, well, you can't stay here, so you got to get out of here. So what they do is they make their way back to the border and come back to the U.S. illegally. I don't have a problem keeping them in Gitmo. I don't have a problem sending them to El Salvador. But again, this just illustrates the point that we have a problem with criminal gangs in the U.S. that are illegally here, that are illegal immigrants, and we need to do something about that. And we can't allow one political party to put the brakes on that when the whole of the American people are against keeping these people here.
I think if that was Al-Qaeda, if there were 5 members of Al-Qaeda that we had in prison and they stabbed an American guard, I think there would be a lot more anger from people across the spectrum, because Al-Qaeda has been accepted as a terrorist organization generally. And it's still like, I think people are resistant because it's Trump that's the one that said MS-13 is a terrorist organization. People are like, anything you say, Trump, is bullshit. I don't agree with you. But
I think you're right.
Knowing a known Al-Qaeda terrorists in prison attack a guard, I don't think they're seeing the light of day. Like, if they're already Al-Qaeda terrorists, and I'm not saying it was righteous to call these people terrorists. I'm not saying that. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. George Bush was a funny guy, but.
Well, Al-Qaeda?
Yeah.
No, it's right to call them terrorists.
Yeah,
I'm completely.
ISIS was the next one. I was like, I just heard ISIS on the news. I'm like, oh, now the next terrorist organization's in the books. Now it's called ISIS, this one. Anyway.
Right.
They're terrorists too.
I think MS-13, this is definitely an example that these guys are. And 5 guys don't speak for the entire MS-13, but they're definitely not giving it a good name. And
it's a criminal gang. It's like an international criminal gang. They do drugs and smuggling and human trafficking.
I mean,
stuff,
like I'm the drug stuff. You're gonna have a lot of libertarians be like, well, if you just let people do the drugs they want to do, you wouldn't have this problem. And
the United States Institutes for Peace were arguing that the Taliban should not be cracking down on opium producers because it was bad for Afghans worldwide.
I can't believe that idiocy.
We were paying for that.
That's dumb. But
it's dumb.
The point that I'm making is, like, even if the libertarians go and make the stupid argument that, you can't do that because they're just selling drugs and it's fine. Like, they're still human traffickers. And that's actually... that's facilitating the rape of minors, like of little kids. You're not talking about, adult women that are like, well, maybe if I go into the sex working industry, things will be fine. No, you're talking about the rape of children. So libertarian, in America, libertarians need to stop with their argument of, well, they're just, if we stop taking the drugs, it's our fault. Blame America. It's not. It's them trafficking children. That's the big horrible thing that's happening.
And the thing is, we wouldn't be having any of these problems if the border hadn't have been open for so long, where so many illegal immigrants were pouring through, and we had no checks to see who it was that was showing up. Were they wanted for rape and murder in the country they're coming from? Hey, we really should probably not let them in the U.S. That's the whole reason why there's an immigration process you're supposed to go through, or even to apply for a visa, is because we want to vet these people before they come into our country, and then they end up running amok and causing all these problems. If we didn't have all the people, all these really bad people pouring in, it would be much less of a problem.
I was thinking about, because they called it invasion, and that Biden administration literally didn't defend our country. They let foreign people.
He was complicit.
That's another level.
He invited them.
At the very least,
surge the border.
Defend the. Yeah, he did. He told him to surge in his campaign, in his 2020 campaign. Defend the country. That's your job as the American government, as the military, is defend the country. If the people are coming in illegally, defend the country. And
there was this crazy thing too, where Texas tried to put up a border wall, and the Biden administration took them to court. And the court said, hey, Texas, you're not allowed to put up a border wall. And now you have all of these judges who are saying you're not allowed. Okay, so you're not allowed to defend the country. We already have discovered that. And you had multiple states taking the Biden administration to court saying, you're destroying the border, you're creating this crisis. And judges were like, meh, whatever. But now that the Trump administration is trying to get rid of criminals who don't belong here, who have orders of deportation already, who've committed crimes in America, the judges are saying, no, they have to stay here. Like, what is up with this judiciary who for the past 4 years refused to enforce the law, refused to hold the administration accountable to the laws that Congress set out, and now is preventing the government from deporting people? Why is that happening? What kind of judiciary is this? Why are they doing this?
Andrew Jackson's got a quote about the courts. He said they made their decision. Now let them enforce it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the whole thing, right? I mean, if people don't, and this is something that the Chief Justice said a couple of weeks ago, if people don't have respect for the court's orders, then we don't really have a third branch of government. The Supreme Court, it's fascinating. They can make a decision, but they can't do anything about it. It's all entirely dependent on if we respect their decisions. And the judiciary is getting to a point where a lot of their decisions are hard to respect. Like the one recently where you had the ACLU bring a case. They said the Trump administration was going to deport, I think, 50 Venezuelans from Anson, Texas, from a facility in Texas. And the ACLU brought the case, and they brought the case in the Northern District of Texas. And they said, hey, you have to put a stop to this. It's going to happen right now. Simultaneously, they brought the case to the Fifth Circuit in Louisiana, and they brought the case to the Supreme Court all at once. So the ACLU didn't give the lower courts time to make a decision, right? The Northern District Court of Texas was like, hang on, we'll get to it. The Fifth Circuit said something as well. And then the Supreme Court jumped in, completely bypassing the lower courts. Now, the Supreme Court is an appellate court. You don't get to the Supreme Court without appealing and appealing and appealing. It's an appellate court. The Supreme Court jumped in and said, hey, Trump administration, you can't deport any of these people without a further order from this court, which makes no sense because that case is a Texas case. And what the ACLU did in that case was they said, they wanted protection for this specific class of people. They want to turn anybody who is potentially subject to deportation into one class nationwide so that they can bring one suit. And because otherwise, per the Supreme Court rulings previously this year, you have to bring suit in the district where the people are being held, which means the ACLU has to run around to hundreds of different districts to prevent this stuff. And they want to just do one thing nationally. But it's so fascinating to me that these courts just let all this happen. All these judges were like, no, you can't. The Biden administration doesn't have to do that. They don't have to protect the border, and neither can you, states. You can't protect the border. And now they're not letting the enforcement arm clean this all up. It makes no sense to me.
I think that the only sense I can make of it is that it's an emotional reaction, or it's being incited by an emotional reaction to Trump's willingness to use intimidation instead of persuasion. And people are literally afraid of the.
Well, part of it was a California. I'm sorry, just one thing, that there was a California judge, Edward Chen, who was objecting to the deportation of Venezuelans in part because he thought that DHS was using negative stereotypes about the Venezuelans. And you had a judge in, I forget her last name, but a judge in Boston who was saying that you can't eliminate the temporary protected status for a whole bunch of people because a lot of these people, in part because a lot of these people send remittances home, and their families in their home countries depend on their income in the U.S. So you can't, so the U.S. can't restrict, can't change their status, their semi-legal status. And so those are both emotional reactions.
I understand your perspective, Ian, but that doesn't really address why they were behaving the way they did under the Biden administration.
That's a good point, man.
Like if they're like, well, we don't want to send these people back because it's mean, that doesn't address the fact that they weren't allowing people to prevent them from they weren't allowing states from allowing them to getting in, and they had no inclination to force the Biden administration or even make rulings about the Biden administration actually not enforcing the law, because that's the job of the executive.
Yeah, but the point you made earlier where you said, listen, they're here illegally. We don't have to debate all the other things. The crazy thing is that Democrats are talking now about MS-13. MS-13, the ads are going to write themselves. These guys, their Los Angeles chapter, documented, you do have to commit a murder to get in. That is documented. It's public. MS-13.
Really? So everybody does.
They have to do a murder. The craziest thing I've saw about MS-13, a majority of the hit jobs that they put out, the killings from them, are done by minors. A majority of them. Nobody talks about this, but when the Democrats are going to go in and defend MS-13, I'm telling you, it's going to become a huge talking point. You heard it here first. A majority of the killings that they do as a gang are people under the age of 18. If you don't think those people are bad people that no one is going to defend, they are subhuman people, I just think it's very clear that we're not just talking about people that came here illegally. These are bad dudes.
Yeah, that's terrible. Do they do that because minors can't be? Minors have a different set of rules.
Yeah, they're protected from being treated as an adult, and they try to get them before they're 17, where it's kind of a gray area. They get them if they can get them when they're like 14 or 15, when they're clearly a child, and have them commit their first murder then. I
can't believe that this is happening in the United States, and we're just allowing this. In other countries, if you're like a bad person and you go commit crimes in these countries, first off, they might not let you in to begin with. But then if you do bad stuff, you're going to go to jail forever. And you don't have people, that are like, oh, the poor MS-13 gang members. We need to be there for them. Those poor people.
It does. It is, and we've said this on the show a bunch of times, but it is really remarkable that they're going to use the perspective of, oh, the poor MS-13 gang members. You can say, oh, this is not, they didn't get due process or whatever, but to really sit there and be like, oh, we're going to defend the gang members, it's something that the Democrats can't help but do. Is they're defending bad people,
defending inmates for transgender surgery being paid by taxpayers. I'm not saying that transgender folks that are convicted of much lesser crimes are MS-13. But man, you pick some funny people to go to bat for.
There was did you guys talk about it on the show? I probably missed it, and you probably did. But the guy who is accused of firebombing a Tesla dealership in Kansas City, a judge released him in part because he has ADHD, is depressed, and needed access to his gender-affirming treatment. He was he allegedly committed the act in March. He started the gender treatment in March.
Do you think he was on hormones, and the gender affirming care could have had to have done with what he decided to do?
Maybe. I mean, estrogen does really weird things to the brain, so I don't know.
You said it, not me.
I sure did. I sure did say it. It's the truth.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.